Hello and welcome to GryphonArt. Today I want to show you how to make this double height version of the A5 milk carton, really just to begin to give you some insight into how versatile this template is. I should tell you that this is not a detailed tutorial, so if you haven't already had some experience of making milk cartons, then it might be useful for you to first view my A5 milk carton tutorial, which produces this size box and which contains a lot more technical information along with hints and tips. As usual, a link to this is provided in the description section of this video. As you might expect, this box is based on my A5 milk carton template, which, if you're not already aware, you can download from my website at GryphonArt.co.uk. Again, you'll find the link in the description section. So assuming that you haven't rushed off to my other tutorial, this box is 2 inches square. The main part of the box is 8 and that's from there to the base is 8 3/8 of an inch high, and the overall height is just short of 10 inches. The box is technically more than a double height of the original carton, because if I can just show you, roughly we're getting 1, 2, and then a flat measurement of the base as well, so probably about an inch more than just double height. Right, so if we move to the Martha Stewart scoring board, I can just remind you that ordinarily with the A5 milk carton template, we would use one piece of A5 card set in landscape mode, and we would initially score at 2, 4, 6 and 8 inches. Now, in order to grow the height of the box, we need to extend the length of this card here, and we can easily achieve this by simply substituting A5 landscape with A4 portrait. I'm sorry, you can't actually see the whole length, but if I just show you, it just fits onto the board with a little bit to spare. So I'm just going to go ahead and score exactly as I would for my A5 milk carton, the standard size, at 2, 4, 6 and 8 inches. I'm then going to turn my card anti-clockwise, again in the same way that I would for the A5 version, and score at 3/8 of an inch for that top closing section, and then again at 1 7/8 of an inch. Now it's at this point that the measurements change for the first and last time. If I just bring you back to the box itself, you can see that we've just scored our 2 top lines, this one and this one, and we're now looking for this baseline to form the bottom of our box. So instead of scoring at 4 5/8 of an inch, our next score line is going to be at 10 1/4 inches, which gives us a slightly larger base flap than is on our original A5 version. We can now turn the card clockwise again, which is exactly what we would do with the A5 version, and score that first little section at 1 5 inches, which ends our requirement for the scoreboard for this box. So I'll just move that out of the way now. So we now just need to fold all of those score lines, keeping our lines nice and square. We work to these lines rather than the edges of our box or our paper, which may not have been square in the first place. I'm going to continue to do that, seems as it's reasonably straightforward, and then I'll come back to you when we're done. So I've folded all those lines in place, and I'm now going to, on the outside of the box, just create those triangular lines that allow us to close the box when it's put together. So I'll quickly do that. This little steel ruler is brilliant actually for this job. It's less cumbersome than the 12-inch version. So having done that, I've just put my folds into place. This can be a little bit tricky, so I tend to just encourage along that line until I can get a flat edge to it, and use my bone folder to further encourage it into place. So you do have to score those lines fairly well in order to make this part of that process easier. Okay, so we're now ready to put our box together. So the first thing we're going to do is just cut away this little excess piece that we don't need. Oops. Get rid of that. And then I'm going to cut into up to this first baseline, which you're probably all familiar with by now if you've seen my other milk carton tutorial, just so that we can create the flaps. And keeping these nice and square does mean that they help you to square up the box as you put it together later. Okay, so that's that bit done. We just need to put on our double-sided tape, and I do tend to start with the right side of the box for that. I do know that I need to have double-sided tape on the outside of the box, certainly on this flap here where the closure's formed. So I just go ahead and put that along there. And you can use glue for this if you're happier with it. I tend to use tape because it's less moist and tends not to distort the card quite so much. So continuing to work with the right side of the box, I know that once I've got this flap completed, that it's the opposite of these bottom flaps that also needs tape on the outside. It's something that before I made many of these boxes always used to have to make me stop and think, but I just now know it's the opposite side to the flap, and that works well. So having done that, we can turn it over to the wrong side and put our tape across the bottom here as well. So I'll just move those out of the way to start with. I do tend to keep the tape as close to the edge as I can, and that way I know that there's not going to be any chance of any of it appearing on the inside of the box and providing a stickiness inside that you wouldn't really want. So that's the double-sided tape finished with. we can now start to put together our box. And I tend to do this in this way if you haven't already seen my other video. And I'll do a dry run just to make sure that these edges line up nicely. So, and I do tend to work with this center section to start with. So having done that, I'll just get rid of my tape. So don't worry about this end too much. We're just concerning ourselves with the main body of the box. And this is quite a long one, so it's not as easy to put it together as the shorter version. But so we just nip those edges there, get that section down, and then this end section just tends to fall into place once you've got that main body of the box done. So we can now start to put our box together, and I tend to work so that I put all my flaps out and I can see where the first flap is with this double-sided tape, which is the one I'll be working with first. But before I start, I just like to put together the top of my box, just because it helps to square things up. So I get these edges nicely together, and then once I'm happy with the positioning, just put those folds in at the center. So that's the top edge of the box done. So if I now go to the bottom edge and working with that outside flap first, I can take my tape off there and off this other side, and then we can put that in place. And then I like to work, the next one I like to work with is actually the back of the box. So I can see from there that that's this flap here that I'm concerned with. So I'll just take my tape off there and square that up. And that one can go down. The final one, which is the front flap, just the same thing. Square it up nicely and just apply some pressure to stick it down. Now at this point it's worth putting a long ruler in there just to encourage all of those pieces of tape to fit well in place and stick well. So that's our box finished apart from our closure. Now I'm going to use my normal method, which I've come to prefer, just checking from here to see where the front of the box is, so we'll get that round the right way. And then I like to start, so with the front of my box facing me, but you know, if you prefer to do it another way, that's absolutely fine. It's what's comfortable. And then I place my strip of card almost, but not quite, to the edge of the top there. Once I'm happy with the position, I can bend that around and then repeat the process, lining it up, and then I just cut away this excess, leaving it slightly short of the edge, so like that. So that's my band prepared. Now I tend to use double-sided tape for this, but you can use glue. And what I'm going to do, because I need to stick these two sections together, I'll apply a little bit of tape to this section and also to this section, starting on the ends, so that I know they'll overlap and the whole length that I need to stick will be in touch with adhesive. So we'll go to there. As you can see, it's not quite to the length, and actually you wouldn't need to go as far as I've done because this bit will overlap that. So I can just get that on the end there. rid of my scissors. Right, so I'm just going to check again where the front of my box is and do that dry run, double checking the fit. And we do fit this in situ just to make sure that it is a good fit and not too tight. So actually I've done that the wrong way around. I've put some tape where I shouldn't have. Right, so I've just corrected that. I put tape here and I shouldn't have done that. It should be on the overlapping sections. So just to confirm, you want some on to that end there and some to that end, so that those two pieces will come together. Right, so back to where we were. I've got the front of my box in front of me. I do a dummy run, so that's going to have that tape on the outside there, and that tape will go over. And once I'm happy that I'm okay with that fit, I'll just remove my tape from here and also from this section, and then keeping everything nice and lined up and lining up that back piece as well, just create that band so that it's stuck in place. So I'll just show you that so that you can see that it works. So that's our band. We've got our opening. When we want to reuse the box, we simply place the band back on. Okay, so that's the box finished. Now this, as you can see from the original, if I put them side by side, that we've got some embellishments on there. Now if you're not interested in those, that's fine. The video has served its purpose for you, but I will then now move on and just show you briefly what I've done in terms of decoration, in case that's of interest. Right, so just to get you started with the embellishments, assuming that you obviously continue to watch this video, then I've got this dark coloured strip here, and I'm going to talk to you about that first. Now I've done two things in preparation for that. I've created out of a scrap piece of card a spacer so that I can make sure that I can keep a nice straight line all the way around the bottom of my box, and also keep the distance here equal to the distance up here. So I will demonstrate that in a minute. So that's one thing I've done in preparation. The other thing is I've got the two strips, and these are just strips of card in the choice of colour that I hoped for, and they are simply 2/8 of an inch wide and the length of an A4. So I'm not going to need that length, I'm aware of that. We actually scored at 2, 4, 6 and 8 inches, so I know that my circumference of the box is 8 inches. I am going to need slightly more than that because I'm going around the outside of that circumference, but I've estimated that 8.5 inches will certainly be enough for me, and so I've just put double-sided tape up to the 8.5 inch mark, or slightly beyond in this case. So though I've done that with two pieces of card, and that's the preparation to this point. So I'm just going to move this box out of the way for the moment to give us more room, and then I can show you how I'm going to apply that. Now the first thing I want to do is find this join where the sides of the box join, because that's my starting point. I want the back of the box as my starting point. And all I'm going to do is I'll use my space bar. I'm going to take one of my strips and remove the backing tape from my double-sided tape, but I'm not going to do it the whole way along. I'll keep removing it as I go so that I'm not getting it stuck all over the place. So I'll just move a section, and I want to have a little bit folding over the edge. So if I just place that, make sure first of all, that that's nice and level at the bottom. Just place that against the edge with a little bit of a turnover and press that in place. I can then move this around and just fold that over until it sticks. And then I just continue putting my spacer bar, lining it up with the bottom of my box, putting the folds in place, just pulling that tape out of the way as I work, and just pressing that in place. So keep moving round and repeating that process, and as long as this is lined up with the bottom of your box, everything should meet up nicely when you get to the other side. And now we know where we're joining up. Should be nice and even. Alright, so having done that, I'm now going to just trim this back, if I can find my scissors. And you can see there's a little extra tape there that I don't need. I'll trim that back to the edge. And that's it. Finished for that. Now, I will just repeat that to the top, but I'll do that off tape, so I'm not wasting more of your time than I need to. Right, so that's now done. I've got 2 strips in place, equal distance top and bottom. This is the back of my box, by the way, so that's where the joins are, in the corners. And the next thing I'm going to work on is this little bit of ribbon that's going over the top of that card as well. There is a gap, it's just trying to keep an equidistance. But bearing in mind that it is going on top of this card, we're increasing our circumference of the box yet again. And so to be on the safe side, I think you can probably see that, I've cut a length of ribbon that is actually 9 inches in length. And I know that I should be safe with that length. Now, in order to stick it to the box, I'm using double-sided tape, but if you've got glue that you're comfortable won't mark your ribbon, then by all means substitute it, you know, if you're familiar with that. Now, you should be able to see that I've applied my tape to this ribbon, being very careful not to go over the outside edge, which will create stickiness on the outside of the box if I did that. However, you can probably also see that the width of my tape is somewhat wider than my ribbon. Now, they do have 3mm widths of double-sided tape, but I haven't got any. But that's not a problem, because all I'm going to do, and I'll just show you the beginning of this because it can be a bit fiddly, but I'm going to remove the backing from my tape, and then little by little I'm just going to fold that tape back on itself so that it sticks, and then it doesn't exceed the width of the ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and do that where it's easier for me off the camera, and then I'll come back to you. Right, so I've completed that task, so I'm happy that I've got tape to my ribbon now, and I'm just going to start in that same corner where that join is, and I want the ribbon to just be slightly over the edge of the box, although you know you can position this as you want. And then I just gradually try and keep it nice and even, sticking that ribbon on as I go. And then I'll get to this end piece, and at that point I just cut off the excess. And that forms that border. So I can do that to the other end now, and then I'll come back to you again. Right, so that's now been completed top and bottom, and I've now got another little piece of ribbon here which I've also applied tape for, which I'm going to use to put on the centre of my band, as you can see has been done here. So what I do to help me find the centre is I place that, knowing it's 2 inches, on my self-heal mat so that I can see the 1 inch centre, and just allow for a small overlap just to get me started. Now you want the join on the front of your band because you are going to be putting a bow in the centre which will obscure the join. So it's very simple, just lining the ribbon up so that it fits along the centre of your band. And if there's a bit of excess, which I suspect may be the case, you don't want too much overlap. I'm just going to trim that back. So there we go, that's the band ready. Right, so I've got these 2 little ribbons that I've made which I need for my embellishments. I'm going to take one of those. They are about the same size. You might, if you're making them yourself, you might want to vary the size according to your taste, but this is what I'm going to use. Now, that one of them will be going into the center of my band like that, and I'm just going to attach that with a little bit of Yoo-hoo all-purpose adhesive in this case, which I can show you, just because I know it holds quite well. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Very small amount of glue that you need in this instance. So I'll just see if I can, sometimes it takes ages to come out. There we go. Just a small amount. Get rid of that thread, and actually you can also help then position the tails in the direction that you want, because sometimes they splay outwards. So just place that centrally, just checking the spaces you've got either end and making sure which they're not quite even in this case. There we go, that's better. And just giving that a chance to dry off before I trim the tails back. Right, so whilst that's drying off, just move it out of the way, we can take a look at this central embellishment, which is what we've got left to do, and I can show you how that's comprised. So we'll get onto that next. So the first thing I want to show you is that central rosette. Now I have pre-made that simply because there is a separate tutorial that I've done, and I will put a note of that at the very end of this video so you know what to look out for. But it's basically made with the fan method so that you can get this oval shape. You really probably need to look at that method to have an understanding of it. Now it is a longer length of card that I've used in that case. It's 8.5 inches rather than the one stated. So I'll put a note at the end as well, or in the description section, so that you know what length of card you need to work for this particular oval, because this isn't included in that particular tutorial. They are a lot more round. Okay, so that's something to be made first. So we've done that. So in addition to our bow, which we'll be using for that, we've also got this little butterfly arrangement, and that I've made using a die cutter on my Sizzix Big Shot machine. And if you're interested in duplicating these, I have just got the names of the particular dies involved. So this is the base one, and it's a memory box, and it's called Isabella. And if you can see, this is the solid version, and both versions do come with this little antenna section. Now, if it's of any help to you trying to find it, you can see that it's style 98507. So if you're trying to duplicate that, hopefully that will help you. Now, the other die cutter, also a memory box and actually designed to go with the other one. This is the Pippi butterfly, and that's style 98508. Okay, so I've just used both of those in order to cut the butterfly and just layer them up. I think that's fairly evident for you there. Alright, so that's going to form the combination of our central embellishment. So the first thing that we're going to do is apply the butterfly, and I can use this as a guide so that I can position them fairly well in the same place. So I don't want it to overlap the edge of the rosette too far, because that is representative of the width of my box, and if I overlap it, it could get damaged. So it'll be positioned about there. So I'm going to use PVA glue for this. So just a little bit glue. I'm always wary of using too much on card, especially if the card's a little bit thinner, because it can, as I've said plenty of times before, no doubt, distort the box. So get rid of the excess as quickly as I can. Now, it doesn't really matter if you go further onto the wings than you actually need, because it will dry and it's not going to actually come in contact with the rosette itself. So just place that roughly where it needs to go. And once I'm happy with it, just apply a little pressure so that it sticks into place. So the next thing that we're going to do is put the little ribbon on the bottom, and I've already put a little bit of Yoo-hoo on the back of there, and just position it where you want, fairly centrally perhaps, and let that again then go off. Now I tend to leave that to dry, as with the closing band, until I'm happy it's secure, before I try and trim off these tails here to the length that I desire. As you can see with this one, they're not actually too much extended beyond the border of the rosette, and that's how I'm inclined to do it. Obviously, if you want longer tails, that's absolutely fine. So that's the middle section complete and ready. So just whilst that's drying off, I'm going to return to my little band here that's now nicely secure, and I'm going to place it on the top of my box with the front, just double check that actually, yes, the front at the front. And now I can just trim back these lengths of ribbon so that they're nice and even and at a length that I want. Get a decent sharp pair of scissors for that. It's a bit fiddly actually. Put a slight angle on that one and repeat that angle this side. The length's about right. Take it off at an angle. So there we are, that's trimmed off nicely. So I'm now going to take this little central section and I'm going to trim the ribbon back on there as well. There we go. So that's a nice length. These can be just pushed into shape as well if you like. So that's now finished. All I need to do is apply that to the center of my box, which I'll show you how I've done that in a second. Right, so I hope you can see I've applied some double-sided tape to the back there, and I've got into the habit of using a combination of double-sided tape and PVA glue, and the reason really for this is that there's less area then needed for the wet glue, and actually if the glue takes a little time to go off, as PVA often can, the double-sided tape acts as an instant adhesion and holds everything where you need it to be positioned. So I find it easier to use a combination of both, but you know, we all find our own little methods, and I'm sure if you've done a lot of crafts that you will have found something that you're equally happy with. So I'm just applying whatever adhesion is necessary to the back of that rosette, and then I'm going to position it where it's even. Actually, in this case I can probably use the box to help line things up. I know it's just about slightly over an inch actually between the ribbon and the edge of the rosette, so that's another guide if that's of any help to you. So just leave that to go off, and actually it can help if you just use your ruler on the inside to apply some pressure as well. Okay, so that's now in position, so I'll just put my closer band on the top again, and there you have it, another box. I'll just turn them that way, clear the space for you a bit so that you can see them. So I hope that tutorial has been of interest to you. You can see how sometimes certain box templates have more to offer than you might first think. There are actually a number of variations on the A5 Milk Carton template that I will be introducing you to over the next few weeks, so please subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing those. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching as always, and I'll put any additional information that you might need in the description section for this video or on the end slide.